Something great just happened to someone you know. Think of the last time. Before you responded, before you typed anything, before you reacted, before the performance began, something happened inside you in the first 2 seconds, and if you are honest about what that something was, you have never said it out loud to anyone. Not envy, exactly. Not malice. There was no malice in it. Something smaller and faster. The involuntary placement of someone else's achievement on a scale against your own. The discomfort when their side was heavier. That feeling is called comparisonitis. And in Generation Z, it fires dozens of times per day. Not because Generation Z is worse than previous generations. Because Generation Z was the first generation raised inside a system specifically engineered to produce it. Today we go inside what main character syndrome actually does to your psychology, not the cute social media version of it, the real consequences. And what to do about them. Stay with me. This requires honesty. And honesty about your own psychology is the only kind that actually changes anything. Main character syndrome is a psychological phenomenon, not a social media trend, is the tendency to organize all experience around the self as central actor. Every room entered, what is my role? Every conversation, what does this mean for me? Every relationship, what am I getting? What am I losing? How am I being perceived? The self is not a participant in the world. The self is the world. Everything else is supporting cast. This did not come from character deficiency. It came from architecture. Generation Z was the first generation to grow up inside platforms built on a single premise. Your life is the content. Your self is the product. Your audience is the measure of your value. That premise, absorbed before the identity was fully formed, produced a generation whose relationship to experience is mediated through the question of how the experience will read to an audience. This is not Generation Z's fault. A generation does not choose the cognitive architecture it is handed during its formation years. 4 specific consequences. First, the isolation paradox. The more consistently you cast yourself as the protagonist, the more unconsciously you cast everyone else as supporting characters. Supporting characters do not have inner lives as rich as the protagonists. People feel this not in a way they can articulate, just as a subtle sense of not quite landing in your life. And they drift, not in anger, just drift. The way people drift from conversations where they are not quite the point. Second, catastrophic fragility. When identity is organized around being the protagonist, any experience that positions you as a supporting character becomes a psychological emergency. Feedback is not information, it is an attack on the narrative. Being overlooked is not circumstance, it is a threat to the core story. The fragility is not weakness, it is the inevitable result of building an identity on a premise that reality consistently refuses to honor. Third, the hollow victory. Achievement arrives, the milestone you worked for, and something is expected to follow it. It does not follow. The architecture promised the feeling would be there. The architecture was lying. Fourth, the one that arrives years in and is the hardest to name, the emptiness of having performed a life rather than lived one. Not depression, something quieter. The feeling that you have been present for your own existence as an audience member rather than a participant. That you have watched yourself live rather than lived. That somewhere between the content and the performance, the actual experience of being inside your own life went missing. This feeling has no name in the language you were given. This video is giving it a name. Here is the mechanism at the center of every consequence we just named. The audience that social media provides is not an audience. It is a statistical abstraction. And statistical abstractions cannot give you what you are actually looking for. To be genuinely witnessed, to have another human being temporarily stop being the main character of their own story and become the audience for yours, is one of the rarest and most neurologically significant experiences available. The nervous system is not looking for scale. It is looking for depth. It does not need 1 million people to briefly acknowledge its existence. It needs one person to fully receive it. The platform delivers the appearance of witness at massive scale. 100,000 hearts. But none of those people stop being the main character of their own story to watch yours. They were in transit. You were content they passed through. The nervous system knows the difference, even when the conscious mind is persuaded otherwise. The need underneath main character syndrome is not the need to be famous. It is the need to matter, to have your existence register as real and significant to at least one other person. The platform promised to answer that need. The platform cannot answer that need, and the need keeps growing. 4 practices, each one targeting the specific mechanism it addresses. First, the 2-second interrupt. When comparisonitis fires that involuntary comparison reflex, do not act on it for 30 seconds. Do not respond. Do not scroll for reassurance. Just name the mechanism the comparison reflex just fired. Naming the mechanism rather than the moral judgment interrupts the story construction before it begins. The feeling passes. It did not escalate. Practice this until the spiral loses its automaticity. Second, invest in one relationship for depth, one person, one genuine conversation per week, a specific question about something that actually matters to them, followed by sustained attention to the answer, followed by a follow-up that could only exist because you were listening. You are training yourself to provide the thing your nervous system is starving for. You cannot receive genuine witness until you practice giving it. Third, finish something with no audience. Create something and do not share it. The neurological experience of completion, separate from validation, is one of the most powerful rewiring events available. The platform has been training against it. Practice it back. Fourth, redirect the comparison to direction. When the comparisonitis fires, instead of interrupting it, ask it a different question. Not, why am I behind? Ask, what does this tell me about what I actually want? The comparison reflex does not fire randomly. It fires in the direction of things that matter to you. You are not envious of everything. You are envious of specific things. Those specific things are a map. Use the map. You were told you were the main character. You believed it because the entire architecture of the world you grew up in said it and arranged the evidence to confirm it. That belief has produced real consequences, some of which you have been living with quietly, without language for them. This video gave you the language. What you do with it is the next chapter. That chapter does not get written on the platform. It gets written in the unnarrated, undocumented, fully inhabited hours of your actual life. The life between the content is the one that will matter. Build it. If this video named something you have been carrying, drop plot in the comments. Not because your story has a neat resolution, because choosing to see your own psychology clearly is the beginning of an actual character arc. You just practiced that. Drop plot. Subscribe if you want to keep going. Final video of this series next week. 2 childhoods, 2 traumas. The video that ties everything together. Do not skip it. Peace.